Hi everyone, it's a brand new week. Welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up this morning, interest rates fall significantly within just a week as rate for the 91-day Treasury bill is pegged at 19%. Also, government expected to commence payment of coupons and principals on bonds not swapped under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Plus, United Nations Industrial Development Organization announces a $3.9 million support project for micro, small and medium enterprises here in Ghana. Details coming up. My name is Darrell Kwa. Great to be with you this morning. Interest rates fell significantly within just a week following government's decision to reject bids with higher yields. According to the latest auction by the Bank of Ghana, the 91-day yield fell once again from 24% last week to 19%. Here's more in this report.
From a high of about 35% a week ago, interest rates on the short-term securities have dipped significantly on the yield curve, whilst the 91-day bill yield has also fallen by 16%. That of the 182-day bill has plunged by about 13%, going for 22.8%. The 364-day bill has also dropped by about 9% to 26.8%. The significant fall in the yield of the T-bills means government will further save interest costs. Last week, government saved about 220 million cedis from the reduction in T-bill yield. Analysts and market watchers expect the rate to come down in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the government got about 4.20 billion cedis from the sale of T-bills, about 74% over subscription. It however accepted 3.31 billion cedis of the total bids.
Meanwhile, finance expert Joe Jackson wants government to force Treasury bill rates further down to about 15% to help reduce its interest costs and consequently lending rates. Government saved about 220 million cedis as interest costs for bringing the yield on Treasury bills down to an average of 25.5%. There are also expectations that interest on T-bills will go down again in the coming weeks because of the high demand for the short-term securities. Mr. Jackson tells Joy Business government must act now.
The government is the government. It can indicate to the market. It has friendly bias. It can indicate to the market that come to me with lower bids. It doesn't have to wait for the bids to come in and reject them before we go through that whole rigmarole. But listen, we can say, come to me with lower bids. I won't be buying at higher bids, and indicate it clearly and use the market and drive it down. If it comes and you don't like it, don't buy it and wait. After all, you are oversubscribed.
Finance expert, Director of Operations at Delex Finance, Joe Jackson there. Next, government is today expected to start paying coupons on bonds that were not swapped under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Here's George Jaffe with more.
Finance Ministry, in a statement on February 27, announced that it will resume the payment of coupon and principals on bonds that matured last month. This was after the initial date was rescheduled due to what the ministry describes as delays in finalizing the settlement of bonds by persons that signed up to participate in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Sources close to the Ministry of Finance had then argued that the administrative work under these bonds that were swapped demanded a lot of time to ensure that the settlements are done well. That is why it had to push back the payment dates for these old bonds. The new date for paying these bonds is coming at a time that coupon payments on Treasury bills have dropped significantly over the past 2 weeks. Some have argued that it was one of government's strategies to use this Domestic Debt Exchange Program to reduce interest payments on bonds and Treasury bills issued by the government of Ghana. However, these bond payments are restricted to maturities and coupons for last month. But for many of these bondholders, will the Ministry of Finance kickstart the process of crediting their accounts at the Central Securities Depository? Well, maybe their fingers are crossed, waiting for their email alerts and messages on their phones.
George Jaffe with that report. Financial economist Professor Lord Mensah has called for a critical review of the assessment criteria used by the Bretton Woods institutions to examine economic development standards of African countries. According to him, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have failed developing countries in Africa. Professor Mensah argued that the IMF, for example, has always used African countries to push for more funding, overlooking the need to warn African leaders of overspending.
We may have to look at, the IMF itself and what they stand for. If any country is in trouble, they'll fall back to, IMF in case, they are part of the fund. And being, more or less an insurer, I think if things are not going well, you may have to come up, to indicate. And I know they have country reps here and there. Why would you watch countries to borrow to a level where they cannot manage? And I ask myself so many questions, whether the IMF may want countries to be in trouble so that they create jobs for themselves, or possibly without, developing countries being in trouble and coming back to them to borrow.
Financial economist Professor Lord Mensah. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization has announced a $3.9 million support project for micro, small and medium enterprises here in Ghana. According to project manager in charge of food security and food system unit, Marine Mizono, this is aimed at scaling up Ghana's national initiative on MSMEs. Speaking to Joy Business at the launch in partnership with the Ghana Enterprises Agency, Mr. Mizuno indicated that the government of Japan funded program is to expand the Kaizen initiatives by enhancing sustainable agribusinesses in Ghana.
We have received in US dollars 3.9 million as a project fund, out of which we will be reaching out to, we're talking about hundreds of Ghanaian enterprises to provide support in terms of productivity management, quality management, resource efficiency. So the main focus of the project is manufacturing sector, because this is where we can apply enterprise performance management as well as Kaizen.
Marine Mizuno is a project manager in food system unit at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Now, the executive director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, Duncan Amwa, is optimistic that 600,000 barrels of Russian crude oil in Ghana will not stop Ghana's relationship with other international trading partners. He's however asking the National Petroleum Authority to be certain about the source. Speaking to Joy Business, he entreated government to tread cautiously.
Whether we like it or not, the global system shakes off, but still finds a way to accept Russian crude. We don't have a problem with it, so long as prices are going to be competitive, so long as we are being told the exact truth, and not that some people are playing, different trade games, bringing finished product.
We've seen 20% fall in their revenue. One may say in the long term, this could cause a serious problem for Ghana and its trading partners.
The Russian product or cargo, I do not anticipate should cause a problem.
Duncan Amwa, Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana. Now, as part of its corporate social responsibility, Accra Breweries PLC has organized its Better Malt Flip Challenge to inculcate the idea of recycling plastics into young ones. Now, the challenge is geared towards instilling entrepreneurial ideas in students through the recycling of plastics. Head of Marketing at Accra Brewery PLC, Chukwu Naobi, spoke on the sidelines of the challenge.
Through initiatives like this to encourage every one of us to unleash our creativity. So when you consume better malt and you get the nourishment, don't litter the environment. Take care of the environment as well. Same way you take care of yourself, and reuse that plastic waste for something more creative. And then in terms of how we're going to expand the reach of this, it is through creating awareness like this, because we know we can't do this alone. We do this in collaboration with our students, with our kids, and with everyone else out there. So we encourage you to join us on this journey, and encourage everyone around you to not litter the environment, but rather reuse the wastes that you generate into more creative solutions.
Head of Marketing at Accra Brewery PLC, Chukwu Naobi. Let's turn to the stock market. The Ghana Stock Exchange is expected to continue its fine performance from last week. Let's now hear from Grace Munayun of DataBank Research.
Last week, the market indices clawed back some losses due to gains in two equities. MTN Ghana gained 7.53% weekly to close at 1 Ghana cedi. Total Energies advanced by 21% weekly to 6 cedis 5 pesos. Conversely, Cowbank lost 1.96% weekly to 50 pesos, while Gold shaved 0.61% weekly, closing at 1 cedi 64 pesos. Consequently, the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index made a positive trajectory to a year-to-date gain of 1.46%, while the DataBank Stock Index climbed 2.73% to 101.3 points. We tip the share price of gold to fall this week due to the excess supply of their shares. For Joy Business Report, Grace Munanyun of DataBank Research.
Thanks, Grace. Let's check the markets as we conclude this morning. On the currency market, the dollar going for 12 cedis 63 pesos. That's on the forex or retail market. The pound went for 14 cedis 88 pesos, and the euro going for 13 cedis. On the commodity market, crude oil going for $83 a barrel. Gold gained $9.72 to sell at $1,877.98 an ounce. Cocoa, however, lost $28, going this morning for $2,704 a ton. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwal. Thanks for listening. The Super Morning Show continues. Here's Kojo Jackson.
Yeah.